Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you turbines to speed. This, ladies and gentlemen, is my Hermes Not So Light. And it's not so light now because this 5-watt SDR transceiver, which is an absolute wonder, will now get me up to 30 or 40 watts, care of my cheap Chinese amplifier. Roll the intro. Now, we haven't finished our filter board, but we're waiting for parts in the mail. So this is an opportunity to start marking up our enclosure. Now, as you can see, the enclosure is a toolbox, like I've used for my Magic antenna box, so that it all matches up. These cost about $17 from Bunnings, which is a hardware store in Australia. So for a metal enclosure, quite a cheap option. And what I tend to do is, because I have a lot of projects on the run and because I am completely discombobulated and disorganized, what I tend to do is I either make a box for the project that I'm working on, or if there's actual box that the project will go into, I put all the bits and bobs in that box so that when it comes time to actually finish it, I know where the parts are. So most of the time, if I do that, I don't lose bits. These are the rotary switches. Now, ideally, I would have had one rotary switch doing this whole thing. As it is, I got two 5-position switches, which isn't perfect, but it means that I can switch between the two of them and there'll be less cables running to each switch. So it might make wiring up a little bit easier. And that is the switch that we're going to switch between the two rotary switches with. My mate Chris gave me this 50 ohm coax. I can't remember what designation it is, but it's nice and fine and the right impedance, and it will carry 100 watts. No problems at all. We're only going 50 anyway, so that will do that. I've also got a bit of DC cable. It's a little bit more heavy duty to actually supply the DC to the rig, which is going through this jack that's on the back of the amplifier. This is the amplifier for all those that haven't seen previous videos of this in operation, but it will now be multi-band once this is all built. A couple of knobs like the ones that are on my Magic antenna box. They're out of JCar. And some panel mount BNCs to the back of the unit. And we have a couple of switches. This is the switch to switch on the DC, so I can turn the amp on and off, and it's got a little LED in it, so that'll be nice. And I've also got a small single pole double throw switch, which will allow me to switch the fan on and off. So if I'm not transmitting, but I have the unit ready to go, I can switch the fan off so it's not annoying. Could have put some temperature sensing in there and whatnot, but I prefer to have things manual. Why make things harder than they need to be? So we will now get a bit of masking tape and we will start marking up where everything will go, planning it all out. And I'll come back in a little while and I'll show you the progress on getting this all done. And that will be our internal layout, roughly how it's going to go. Battery. So now we put a bit of masking tape down. We will mark through that hole. And then when we put our little post in, it should line up with the holes that are in the board, as long as we put it the same way around. Not precise, but quick and easy. And that is the fan and the low pass filter board securely down. 3,000 more holes to go. Hi folks, it's that time of the video where I'm going to ask you to reach down and smash that like button and that subscribe button like it's a CW key. I really appreciate all the people that have subscribed, and I'd like to see a lot more people subscribing so you'll get notified when new videos are uploaded. And stick around to the end of this video or fast forward to see the insides of this amplifier and find out how it goes power wise. I'll run it into a power meter into a dummy load so you can have a look at how much power we're getting on each band. And I actually do get a couple of QSOs CW wise on it too. And running 40 to 50 watts from this location makes a world of difference. But don't worry, all you QRP folk, I have not given up on QRP. I will still be operating QRP on all my portable operations, and certainly from here as well when I'm playing around in the QRP play area, which I've done a video on. 73, back to the video. Well, we've managed to get through to another Sunday. We were hoping to finish the filter board for the amplifier. Unfortunately, we're still waiting for the caps to arrive. They haven't been an extreme amount of time. It's just I was hoping for before the weekend. So they're arriving on Monday or Tuesday, so that's not an issue really, because I can still continue on with. There's a heap of drilling and wiring that needs to happen that can happen before I actually throw on the last few components on this filter board, which will be the capacitors that are missing. So from MiniKits here, who is a supplier of radio stuff that I go to all the time. I'll put a link below to MiniKits. It's a South Australian supplier. I've gotten a whole heap of toroids there for various filters. So they're useful for low pass and band pass filters if you're homebrewing. And I also got myself some RG178, which is a 50 ohm coax, but it's a nice and flexible coax. So rather than trying to do what I've done with a lot of my other projects, which is go with this RG58 stuff, which is stiff as and probably overkill for short distances, I have gone with this stuff here. It's 50 ohms and it will do the job nicely, and it means that I'm not struggling with getting things to stay where they're supposed to, and they're not going to pop off as easily because they won't be under as much stress. So my magic antenna box, I went all with that stiffer cable, and it's been reliable, but it was a real pain to wire it up. And these FQP 13N10. Now these are the FETs that I'm using in the actual amplifier. I've got a whole heap of these. He's got a few hundred in stock, but I just thought if they start popping and I'm experimenting with protection for them, it would be good to have quite a few spares. So I'm hoping I don't need those, but if I do, it's nice to know they're there. If I don't use them in the amplifier, I will use them in some other projects, I am certain. For instance, QRP transceivers and all that sort of stuff. And then, of course, some of these PL259 to BNC, and these go on the back of meters and equipment that's like my Bodanger FT101E has PL259, as do a lot of the older types of ham gear. So that is always useful because the rest of the station is now a BNC, which seems to be the way things are now. So we have got a conglomeration of these boxes lying around the shack because I tend to leave things in boxes to remind me of what they're for. And so today the plan is to finish off the 10 meter filter, and then I've got 4 to go, which are the WARC bands, the newer ham bands on the available spectrum. So I will probably wind those toroids for those bands because we do have the toroids from MiniKits. And then when the Wiltronics caps arrive, I shall throw the caps on the board. But in the meantime, we will wire the entire amplifier up, and that will allow us to give it a test. And I might even just test it sitting on the bench and make sure it all works before I throw it in the box. Now, we are watching restore videos on Mr. Carlson's lab because in an upcoming video, I'm going to be restoring an AM and shortwave tube radio that a friend managed to get from a thrift shop. So that should be a lot of fun. And that is our toroids for our 10-meter filter. Onwards and upwards we go. Now we just need to continuity test to make sure that we've actually burnt through all of that enamel on these toroids. So if we go from one end to the other on continuity mode testing, we should get a tone, and we do. We shouldn't get anything to earth, which is also good. So that's ready to install capacitors. A bit of FT8 on the QMX Plus on a lovely Sunday morning, and this is the toroid inductance chart for David Smith, Golf 4 Charlie Oscar Echo, and I've just printed this out because this will give you various types of toroids and the number of windings that are required to get it to a particular inductance. You can see here turns. So very, very handy piece of information. So I will, at some point in time, I'm endeavoring to create some sort of filing system so that I don't have to constantly come back and find these things. But hey, the internet, what a resource. And there we have it. The switches are wired up, and we're pretty much ready to put it in a box, but I'm very, very tempted just to set it up on the bench and see if it all switches like it should. Now, the WARC bands are not working, but all the other bands should be, and we could give it a little test, maybe on 20 and 40 FT8. Yippee-ki-yay, the capacitors have arrived, so we can pop them into the WARC filters that were incomplete, and this entire amplifier will be ready to pop in the case and fire up. Okay folks, a dreary Wednesday night, and we're drilling the final holes for the amplifier for the Hermes Lite, and you know, trusty old step drill, rough as guts, but gee, it's nice and quick. And I think we've got all the holes we need now, so we'll start putting stuff in. I am going to order some black labeling, so that labeling will be temporary for the time being, but I want it to match the Magic antenna box as much as I can, so I can't get exactly the same letters, but I'm going to try and get something similar through AliExpress and his 40 thieves. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my new Hermes HF amplifier. And let's take a look under the hood. Oh, what a sight to behold. We'll just show you the, we've already seen the front panel. We'll show you the back of it. Nice clean back, in and out, DC, and this is the push to talk activation. So pretty clean on the back. And we'll put it down. You can have a look inside the case. So we have our amplifier, and these are our switches for switching bands, and of course we have the filter board with all of those bands, 10 through 160 meters. Very happy with how this is going so far, but let's wire it up, feed into the dummy and a better meter, and we'll get an idea of SWRs that the actual Hermes is seeing, and also the power that's coming out of this amp. Let's go. Okay, folks, let's have a look and see what the Hermes Lite is seeing as it looks inside this amplifier, starting at 160 meters. We're on 160 into a dummy load, and let's see. 2.2 is to 1. I can live with that as long as it's below 3. 80 meters. Let's have a look. 1.6 is to 1. Now let's have a look at 60 meters. Understand that we are going into a dummy load. This is not a legal band in Australia, but I have installed it in case the WIA comes through and gets us access to this band. Let's have a look at the SWR. 1.3 is to 1. We're happy with that. Then we go to 40. Flick it over. Let's have a look. 1.4 is to 1. Happy with that. Then we go to 30 meters. And let's have a look. 1.3 is to 1. Yeah, that's a good SWR. And finally, oh, we've run out of stops. So let's swing the camera around. I'll show you what happens now. So we've just done all the 5 bands that are on this side. We flick this switch across. That activates this side of the switching. And if we go all the way across to this side, we are starting at 30 meters and going through to 10 meters. Let's get back to the Hermes Lite. So let's have a look and see what happens on 30 meters. 1.5 is to 1. Let's have a look at 20 meters. Switch. 1.4 is to 1. Flick the switch. 17 meters. 1.7 is to 1. Flick the switch. 15 meters. 1.6 is to 1. 12 meters. 1.9 is to 1. We're still under 2. And finally, 10 meters. I think it gets fairly high, but I'm hoping it stays under 3. Let's see. Okay. Yes, a little bit high, 3.5 to 1. So I won't be operating FD8 on on 10 meters until I sort that out. I'm sure that we can find some way of tweaking the amp to get it to give me a little bit more of an acceptable SWR on 10 meters. At any rate, I'm very, very happy with all those other bands. Let's have a look at power now on the meter. Okay, folks, have a look at the power now. Off to the left, 160 position, and go. 35 watts, 80 meters, also 35 watts, 60 meters. Keeping in mind this is not a legal band in Australia, but we're on the dummy load. But we're hoping that WIA will get us here. 35 watts. Let's go to 40 meters. 35 watts. And on the 30 meter band, a little bit less than 35, but it's still over 30 watts. Actually, no, tell a lie. That's about just under 20 watts. That is on the 30 meter band. We flick across 20 meters. That's the 20 meter band. 20 meters. About 30 watts. A little over. 17. About 20, let's say 20 watts. 15 meter band. 35. $12 meters. About 25 watts. And on the 10-meter band, we have about 25 watts. Well, happy to report, folks, that the amp has already seen, well, I did some FD8 before it went in the box. And the other night, I was testing it on an online SDR all the way to South Australia. And who should come up but Graham, a VK5 GG. So thank you, Graham, for the QSO. Graham's like international rescue. You always manage to find him, no matter how bad the reception is. He's always there, and he's always gotten me out of a pickle when I'm trying to find a QSO on a newly built rig. And then in this instance, I was just testing on the online SDR, and up he popped. So thank you, Graham. And also tonight, I got Chris, a VK1 CT. I didn't get any footage of the QSO with Graham because I wasn't actually expecting to hear anyone on the bands. So that was a pleasant surprise. So I'll quickly show you some of the footage of the QSO, not the whole thing, with Chris. And you can see how the rigs are now getting out. Thank you for sticking around right to the end of the video. I'm very excited about having a play with this amplifier. Let me know in the comment section below whether you think this was a monumental waste of time. I'm sure there'll be people that feel like I could have just gone and probably bought myself a better amplifier for a couple $100 and saved myself all that time and all that effort. But for anyone out there that likes to homebrew, they'll understand the joy in the frustration and also the joy in the actual learning and the discoveries that happen along the way. Homebrewing isn't everyone's cup of tea, but for the hardcore group of people that do love to do it, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall see you in the next video, 7.3 from the Art of Engineering.